"I want to give birth to a white baby," said the Apache woman. She knocked on the lonely cowboy's door. The door was still swinging when the rifle came up. Cole Hardin had not slept in 3 days. His boots were still on. The candle on the table had burned to a black stub hours ago, and the only light in the cabin came from the thin strip of moon cutting through the cracked shutter. He heard the knock, and his hand was already on the Winchester before his eyes were fully open. A man who lasted long on the edge of the Arizona territory did not wait to find out what knocked in the dark. He pressed his back to the wall. Beside the door listened, one set of footsteps, light ones. No creak of leather armor, no jingle of anything metal. He kept the barrel level and opened the door with his boot. She stood in the cold. She was Apache. That much he knew in an instant. The way she held herself, straight as a pine and twice as unbending. Her dress was buckskin, travel-worn and dark at the hem from the wet grass. Her hair was loose and tangled from riding hard. She was young, maybe 20, maybe less, and she was bleeding from a cut above her left ear that had dried brown and cracked down the side of her face. She did not flinch at the rifle. She looked at it the way a person looks at weather. A problem, but not the worst one tonight. Cole did not lower the gun. "What do you want?" She answered him, in English that was clean and deliberate, the kind that came from someone who had learned it on purpose, not by accident. "I need shelter one night. I will be gone before the sun reaches the top of the pines." "You are bleeding, I know. Who did that?" She said nothing, which was its own kind of answer. Cole looked past her into the dark. The pines were still. The horses in the lean-to had not spooked, which meant no large group was close. A large group would have brought more noise, more smell. He looked back at her. She had not moved, had not tried anything. Just stood there with the wind pulling at her hair and the dried blood on her face, and the patience of someone who had run out of better options, but had not run out of dignity. He stepped back from the door. She came in. He did not put the rifle down. He set it against the wall where he could reach it, and he pulled the candle stub from the holder and lit it from the coals in the stove, and looked at her in the light. The cut was long but not deep. Whoever had done it had been in a hurry or had bad aim. He pulled a cloth from the shelf and held it out to her. She took it without thanks and pressed it to her head. "Sit," he said. She sat at the table. Not slumped, not trembling. She sat the way people sit when they are holding every part of themselves together by force of will alone. Cole poured water into a tin cup and set it in front of her. He did not offer food yet. He did not know her, and she did not know him. And there was a protocol to these things, even out here, even at this hour that had nothing to do with law and everything to do with the way hard country made people careful. "My name is Cole Hardin," he said. "This is my land. The nearest town is Dunmore, 14 miles east." She looked at the cup. "I know where Dunmore is." "Then you know it is not a safe place for you." "No place is safe for me tonight." Cole pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. He was a big man, broad through the shoulders, with hands that had been broken and healed wrong twice, and a face that the sun and the wind had made older than his years. He was 34, but he looked 40 and felt 50. On cold mornings he looked at her and said, "What happened?" She was quiet for a long moment, long enough that he thought she would not answer. Then she said, "My husband's brothers came for me. 3 of them. They believe I have dishonored the family." "Have you?" She looked at him direct. No apology in it. "I want to give birth to a white baby." The candle between them threw its small light across the table. The wind moved against the shutters. Cole Hardin said nothing for a moment, because there was nothing small enough or fast enough to say to that. He looked at the rifle against the wall. He looked at the cup of water she had not touched. He looked at the door which he had not locked. He stood up and dropped the bolt across it. "All right," he said. "You sleep by the stove. I sleep by the door. Nobody comes through that door tonight." She looked at him with something that was not trust but was adjacent to it, the kind of look that says, "I do not know you, but tonight you are what there is." She said, "My name is Nara." Cole Hardin nodded. He picked up the rifle and sat down in the chair beside the door. Outside, the Arizona dark pressed against the cabin walls. Somewhere out in it, 3 men were riding. The first shot came at dawn. Cole was already awake. He had not truly slept, only drifted, in that shallow half-dark where a man's body rests but his ears keep working. He heard the horses before the shot. Heard them pull up short at the tree line to the north. Heard the low exchange of voices that carried further than men thought in cold air. 3 horses. 3 men they had tracked her through the night. The shot came through the shutters and took the tin cup off the table and sent it ringing across the floor. Nara was already on her feet. Cole was already at the shutter gap, one eye to the crack, the Winchester across his arm. He counted shadows in the gray light at the tree line. 3. They were spread out, which meant they had done this before. Not bunched like amateurs. 1 at the tree line center, 1 drifting wide left toward the lean-to, 1 already moving on foot toward the side wall of the cabin. The one going to the lean-to wants the horses, Cole said, without looking away from the shutter. If he gets them, we don't outrun this. Nara moved beside him. He felt more than saw her take something from inside her dress. A knife. Short-bladed, the kind made for close work. "How many rounds do you have?" she said. "Enough for 3 men and a problem to spare. They will not all come at once. The oldest one, the one who leads, he will wait. He will send the younger ones first to draw your fire." Cole looked at her. "You know them. I grew up with them." That sat between them for a second, like a stone dropped in water. Then Cole turned back to the shutter. "The one on the left is almost at the lean-to. If he cuts the horses loose and drives them, we lose our advantage." He paused. "I need to go out the back. They will expect that. They will expect me to stay put and trade shots through wood until I run low. I don't do what is expected." Nara looked at the back wall where a low window sat above the old storage shelf. Barely wide enough for a man Cole's size. She looked back at him. "I can draw them. No. I am the reason they are here. They will watch me. They will not watch the back window." Cole Hardin had been alone on this land for 11 months. Before that, he had been a scout for the 3rd Cavalry out of Fort Bowie, and before that, he had done things he did not think about before breakfast. He understood tactical problems. He understood cover and angle and the arithmetic of bullets. He also understood that Nara was right. "You open that shutter," he said. "You pull it back and let them see you, and then you drop. You do not stand up. You do not give them a target. You understand me." "I have been on since I was 12 years old," she said. "Do not explain things to me," he almost said something back. He did not. He went to the back wall, and he went through the window, and the cold hit him like a slap. And he moved along the back of the cabin in a low, fast crawl. The frozen ground biting at his hands, the Winchester tucked close against his chest. Behind him, the front shutter opened. The voices at the tree line changed their pitch. He heard it even from the back. The sharp, quick exchange of men who have just seen something they were looking for. Cole came around the corner of the lean-to fast and low. The man inside had both horses by their bridles and was reaching for the tie line with a short axe in his hand. He was young. Maybe 18. Broad through the jaw, with a red blanket across one shoulder. He turned just as Cole came through the lean-to door. Cole hit him with the butt of the Winchester across the temple before he could make a sound. The young man went down into the hay without a word. Cole caught the horses before they spooked and tied short and fast, and came back out the lean-to's far side into the open ground. The man at the tree line center had moved. Cole could see him now angled toward the front of the cabin, rifle up, watching the shutter where Nara had shown herself and dropped. He was 40 yards out. He had not yet looked behind him. Cole put 1 round into the dirt 3 feet in front of his boots. The man stopped, completely still. The kind of still that comes when a man's body understands something before his mind catches up. "Drop it," Cole said. His voice was level. Not loud. He did not need loud. "Drop the rifle and put your hands where I can see them open." The man turned his head. Slowly he looked at Cole. Then he looked at where his partner should have been by the lean-to. He saw the empty space. He dropped the rifle. That left one. The oldest one, the leader. The one Nara had said would wait. Cole heard the cabin door from the front. He heard it open. He ran. He came around the front of the cabin. And the door was hanging open, and the morning air was still. And Cole Hardin felt the cold drop through his chest like a stone. The leader stood inside the doorway with Nara's arm locked in his grip. He was older than the other 2, maybe 40, with a face like cracked clay and eyes that had long since stopped negotiating. He held her from behind with one arm across her chest. He had a revolver in his other hand. and it was not pointed at Nara. It was pointed at Cole. "You dropped the Winchester," the man said. His English was deliberate, accented, and completely calm. The calm of a man who had thought about this moment for many miles. Cole stopped 6 feet from the doorway. He looked at Nara. She was not struggling. She had stopped struggling, which meant she had already assessed the situation and decided that struggling was not the right move yet. Her eyes were steady. She was waiting. Cole looked at the man. "You tracked her all night. 14 miles of dark country. That is not a small effort. She is family. She does not want to be. That is not her choice to make." Cole shifted his weight to his left foot. A small movement. Natural looking. His right shoulder dropped a half-inch. "Where I come from," he said. "A woman who runs that hard in the dark has made her choice pretty clear. Where you come from is not here." "No," Cole said. "It is not." He looked at Nara again. "You ready?" And Nara dropped. She did not fall away from the man. She dropped straight down, all her weight, suddenly, and the arm across her chest had nothing to hold, and the man lurched forward, one step to catch his balance, and that step was all the angle Cole needed. The Winchester came up. The shot was close in the cold morning air. The revolver hit the ground outside the doorway. The man grabbed his right hand with his left and stumbled back against the doorframe and stayed there, chest heaving, looking at Cole Hardin, with something that was not quite fury and not quite disbelief, but was somewhere between both. "That was your gun hand," Cole said. "Next one finds something you need more." The man said nothing. Nara stood. She looked at the man who had been her husband's eldest brother. She looked at him for a long time without speaking. Whatever was moving through her in that moment, she kept it behind her eyes. Then she turned away from him and walked back into the cabin, and Cole knew, watching her walk, that she had been waiting a long time to turn her back on that man. Cole looked at the leader still propped in the doorway, cradling his broken hand. "Your brother is in the lean-to with a headache. Your youngest is at the tree line without a rifle. You are going to collect them both and you are going to ride north. You are going to ride north and you are going to tell whoever asks that Nara is dead. You are going to say that and you are going to believe it." The man stared at him. "If you come back," Cole said, "I will not aim for the hand." The man pushed himself off the doorframe. He walked toward the tree line. His back was straight. People like him did not let their backs curve, not even hurt. Cole watched him until the pines took him. Then he went inside. Nara was standing at the stove. She had put wood in it, and the first heat was beginning to push against the cold. She did not turn when he came in. Cole set the Winchester on the table. He sat down. He said, "They will not stay north forever. I know. You need a plan that goes further than one night." She turned then. Her face was composed, but her eyes were doing something more complicated. "I know what I need," she said. "I have known for a long time. I need to get to Silver Creek. There is a settlement there. People who ask fewer questions." Silver Creek is 40 miles west, and the trail goes through broken rock country that becomes a river when it rains. Cole looked at the sky through the open door, clouds building to the southwest, the kind of gray that meant business. "I know the trail," Nara said. Cole was quiet for a moment. He looked at the table. He looked at the bolt still dropped across the door. He looked at his hands. "I know it too," he said. She looked at him, waiting. "I can take you as far as the creek crossing at the base of the ridge. After that, the trail straightens out and there is no cover needed." He paused. "I am not offering anything beyond that." "I did not ask for anything beyond that," Nara said. Cole Hardin nodded once. He stood and went to the shelf and pulled down dried meat and hardtack, and began making up 2 packs. Nara went to the lean-to and readied the horses without being asked. They moved around each other in the small space of the morning, like 2 people who had known each other longer than one night. Because surviving something together does that to strangers. The clouds came in before they were ready to ride. The rain started before they cleared the pine line. Neither of them said anything about it. They rode. The rain turned the trail to dark mud by the time they reached the ridgeline. Cole rode ahead on his gray mare, following the notch in the rock that he knew from 2 winters of scouting this country. Nara rode the second horse, the brown with the white foreleg, and she stayed close but not too close, giving him room to read the ground. She did not complain about the rain. She did not ask how much further. She rode like someone who understood that certain distances had to be crossed without commentary. The broken rock country was worse than Cole had expected. The rain had been building for days without his knowing it, coming in from the south where he had no line of sight, and the lower sections of the trail had become something between a path and a stream. The horses went careful and slow. Cole kept his eyes on the high ground to the east, where the ridgeline dropped away sharply, and the rock was loose and treacherous when wet. They were an hour into the broken country when he heard it. A sound that was not the rain, and not the horses, and not the rock settling. He raised a fist and the horses stopped. Nara had heard it too. She was already scanning the eastern ridge. Cole followed her line of sight and found it. One man, on the high ground, maybe 300 feet above them, picking his way along the wet rock, in a direction that would bring him directly above their path in about 4 minutes. Not the three from the cabin. This was a new shape. Heavier through the body, slower moving, leading a horse that did not want to go where it was being led. Not Apache, Nara said quietly. No, Cole agreed. Not cavalry either, they ride in groups. He watched the figure for another moment. Could be a bounty man. Looking for who? Cole said, nothing. Nara looked at him. There was a situation, Cole said. About 8 months ago, before I came to this land, involving a cattle company out of Tucson's and a misunderstanding about a land deed and a man who put a gun in my face and came out of that conversation missing 2 fingers. He paused. The cattle company has not been satisfied. Nara absorbed this. You have a reward on you. A modest one. How modest? $200. She looked back at the ridge. The figure had stopped. He was looking down. Cole could not tell from this distance if the man had seen them yet. But the rain made visibility bad in both directions, and the horses were close against the rock face and dark enough not to stand out. We move, Cole said. They moved fast along the base of the ridge, keeping the rock face between them and the high ground. The horses pressed into a trot that was just below the speed where hooves become loud. The trail curved south, around a jutting shoulder of stone, and Cole followed it without hesitating. And they came around the shoulder and dropped into a narrow gulch that cut between 2 walls of rock and swallowed the sound of everything. The rain came down harder in the gulch. It ran down the walls in sheets. Cole pulled up and listened, nothing following, not yet. Nara pulled up beside him. Her hair was flat against her face, and her dress was soaked through, and she was looking back at the mouth of the gulch with the expression of someone doing fast mathematics. He will find the tracks, she said. Yes, how long? In this rain, they smear fast, maybe 20 minutes before he loses them. Cole looked up the gulch. It opened out ahead. He could see the lighter gray of open sky at the far end. The creek crossing is another mile past the mouth of this gulch. If we move steady, we come out ahead of him. And if he is faster than you think, then we deal with that when it is in front of us and not before. Cole looked at her. She had not asked a single question that was not useful. He had noticed that. Can you ride hard if it comes to it? I have been riding hard since before your kind invented the saddle. Cole Harden almost smiled. It was a small thing, and it did not last long, but it was there. They rode the gulch at a pace that was faster than careful and not quite reckless, which was the only pace the situation allowed. The walls narrowed at the middle, and the horses went single file. And the sound of the water was everywhere, above and below and beside them. Cole counted his breathing to keep his mind ordered. He thought about the crossing. The creek would be high from the rain. How high, he did not know. A year ago, it had been crossable at the flat rock section even in mild flood. A year ago was not today. He heard the horse behind them in the gulch before they reached the mouth. Not gaining, not losing, just there, steady. A man who knew how to track and knew how to pace himself and was content to follow until the terrain gave him an advantage. Cole came out of the gulch mouth into the open rain and turned the gray hard, left off the trail, and into the scrub oak that lined the western bank of the approaching creek. He did not need to tell Nara. She followed the move without a sound, and they pushed through the wet branches and came out on a small bluff above the creek bank. The creek was fast and brown and high. Not impossible, but close. Flat rock section? Nara asked. 100 yards south. They went south along the bluff, staying in the oak cover, and the creek ran loud and fast below them. And when they came out above the flat rock section, Sol saw the water was running over the rock by 2 feet. The rock itself was still there. He could feel its position in his memory of this place. But it was invisible under the brown water. 2 feet of fast water over a slick, flat rock surface. He looked at the horses. The gray would go. She had crossed worse. The brown with the white foreleg was younger and less certain. "I go first," he said. "I reach the far bank and I call. You bring the brown and you keep him moving forward, whatever happens. If he stops in the current, he will go sideways." Nara looked at the water. Then she looked at the gulch mouth, 200 yards back. Nothing at the mouth yet, but the steady horse sound was closer. "Go," she said. Cole took the gray in. The cold hit the horse at the knee, and she flinched, and he kept her forward with his heels and his voice, talking low and constant. Nothing words, just sound, just presence. The water came to her belly at mid-crossing, and the current pushed, and the gray leaned into it. And her hooves found the flat rock under the brown water, one step at a time, feeling, not seeing. And Cole sat still and balanced, and let her work. They came out on the far bank in a shower of muddy water. And Cole turned immediately and raised his arm. Nara brought the brown in. The brown did not want to go. She pushed him forward with her legs and her will, and the horse stepped in and balked at the belly-deep cold. And she said something to him in Apache that Cole could not hear over the water. Set it once, close to the horse's ear, and the brown went forward. At mid-crossing, the brown's foot slipped off the edge of the flat rock. He went sideways. The current took his hindquarters, and Nara went with the horse as it lurched, and for 1 second, Cole's hand was already on his rope. But then the brown found the rock again, found the edge of it with his near foreleg, and he scrambled and righted, and the current shoved, and Nara held, and they came across. She rode up the far bank, dripping and breathing hard, and the brown was shaking his head and blowing loudly. Cole looked across the creek. A man sat at the bluff edge on a dark horse, watching them. He was heavy-set, canvas coat, flat hat, a rifle across his saddle. He had stopped at the bluff and he was looking at the crossing, and he was not riding into it. The current had climbed another 6 inches in the time it had taken them to cross. The man on the far bank looked at the water. He looked at Cole. He looked at the water again. He did not come in. Cole Hardin and Nara sat their horses on the far bank and watched the man across the creek make his calculation and reach his conclusion. Then the man turned his horse and rode back the way he had come. And the rain closed in behind him, and he was gone. Nara let out a long breath. "The water will drop in a day," she said. "Probably. He will cross when it drops." "Probably," Cole said again. "But we will be gone from here by then." He looked at her. The rain was still coming. They were both soaked through and the temperature was dropping. And Silver Creek Settlement was still 15 miles ahead. "Can you ride another 3 hours?" She looked at him. "Can you?" Cole Hardin turned his horse west toward Silver Creek. Nara rode up beside him, and they went out into the rain together, and the trail opened ahead of them through the scrub and the gray, wet rock, and neither of them looked back. They came to Silver Creek Settlement in the last gray light before dark. It was not much to look at. A main street of 6 buildings, most of them needing paint. One of them boarded at the windows, a livery at the far end, and a trading post with a lamp burning yellow in the glass. Smoke came from 2 chimneys. 3 horses stood at the rail outside, what appeared to be a small eating house. No sign above the door, just the light and the smell of wood smoke and something cooking. They rode in slow. Cole watched the windows. A face appeared in the trading post glass and then withdrew. A dog barked twice from somewhere behind the livery and stopped. Nothing else moved. Silver Creek was the kind of place that had learned a long time ago not to pay too much attention to who rode in, because the kind of people who ended up in Silver Creek generally had reasons for being here that were better left unasked. They stopped at the livery. The liveryman was a short man named Pete, who had one eye and a way of looking at everything sideways to compensate. Like a bird, he took their horses without questions and named a fair price, and Cole paid it without negotiation, because haggling with a man who has just given you shelter for your animals on a night like this was not decent. They walked to the trading post. Inside it was warm and crowded with the smell of tobacco and damp wool, and the particular human smell of a place where tired people stop. The man behind the counter was wide and slow-moving, with a gray beard and careful eyes. He looked at Cole, and then at Nara, and then back at Cole, and his eyes did their calculation and arrived at a position that was none of his business. "Room," Cole said. "2 if you have them." "1 left," the man said. "Got a cot and a good floor both." "That will do." Cole took the room and Nara went in first, and he stood in the doorway and looked back at the trading post common room, where 2 men sat at a side table with their faces toward their plates, the way men sit when they are working at not being noticed. Cole looked at them long enough to file them, and then he went in and pulled the door. The room was small and smelled of old wood and pine resin. 1 window shuttered. The cot was against the wall, narrow but clean. Nara sat on the edge of it and unwrapped the cloth from her head where the cut had been and looked at it in the dim lamplight. It had closed on its own. The bleeding had stopped hours ago somewhere in the rain. Cole took the floor without discussing it. He rolled his coat under his head and laid the Winchester beside him and stared at the ceiling. Outside, the Silver Creek night was quiet. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. Somewhere in the settlement a door opened and closed. "Cole Hardin," Nara said. He said nothing, listening. "Why did you not just turn me away? Last night, when I knocked." Cole was quiet for a moment. He thought about the rifle in his hands at the door. He thought about the dried blood on her face, and the way she had looked at the rifle, like it was weather. "I turned too many people away before," he said. "It did not sit right after a while." Nara said nothing. The lamp on the floor between them burned low. "What will you do here?" Cole said. "There is a woman here who I know. She takes in work. Mending, cooking. She has written to my cousin 3 times asking her to come." Nara paused. "My cousin did not want to come this far west. I did. What does far west mean to you?" She was quiet long enough that Cole thought she was done talking. Then she said, "It means starting from something that has not already been decided." Cole Hardin thought about that, about the 11 months on his land north of Dunmore, about the things he had come west to leave behind, and the things he had not been able to leave, regardless of distance, about the cattle company out of Tucson, and a land deed, and $200, and a man who was probably going to cross that creek in a day's time and pick up a trail that led here. "I will need to move on in the morning," he said. "I know. Silver Creek may not stay safe for long." "Nowhere is safe for long," Nara said. "But safe for now is something." Cole closed his eyes. The fire in the small stove in the corner ticked. The rain came down soft and steady outside. He heard Nara's breathing slow, and even out as sleep came for her the way it comes, for people who have been awake for too many hours. All at once, like a door closing. Cole did not sleep yet. He lay on the hard floor in the warm room and listened to the settlement around him, and thought about morning, and the trail going south, and the $200 question that was going to cross a creek sometime in the next day, and come looking. He thought about Nara, and what she had said about from something that had not already been decided. It was a thing he had not heard put that way before. He turned it over in his mind the way a man turns a stone over to see what is underneath it. He was still turning it over when sleep found him. Dawn came gray and cold. Cole was up before the light was fully in the room. He pulled on his boots and his coat and looked at Nara sleeping on the cot. And then he went out into the trading post and paid the bearded man for 2 breakfasts, and brought them back on a tin tray, and set them on the floor by the stove. Nara woke to the smell of coffee. They ate without much talking, which was the right amount of talking for the morning after the kind of night they had shared. The food was simple but hot. Cole drank his coffee and thought about the trail south. When they were done, Nara said, "You are going south." "Yes. The cattle company is in Tucson." "Yes, then south is toward them." Cole looked at the empty tin cup in his hands. "There is a lawyer in a town called Benson who has a copy of the deed, the real deed. The one that shows the land was mine before the company put their claim on it. I have been putting off riding down to get it for 8 months." Nara looked at him. "Why?" "Because the road to Benson goes through Tucson." He set the cup down. "And Tucson has men in it who are paid to watch for me. And the bounty man from yesterday will cross the creek today." "Yes. So you go south now, ahead of him, before he can drive you into the men waiting in Tucson." Cole nodded once. "That is the shape of it." Nara was quiet. She looked at the shuttered window, Then she said, I know the road to Benson. There is a way through the back country that avoids Tucsongs by 40 miles. Longer, but the men in Tucsong do not watch it because most people do not know it exists. Cole looked at her. My father's people used that trail for 2 generations, she said. I have ridden it 4 times. The stove ticked. The early light came under the door crack. Cole Hardin thought about the shape of the problem in front of him and the shape of the offer in front of him, and the way those 2 shapes fit together with an exactness that was either very good luck or something else. I cannot pay you for guiding, he said. I have enough for the trail and not much more. I am not asking for payment, Nara said. I am asking to go further than Silver Creek. She paused. The woman I know here will still be here when I come back. Benson is a larger town. More work, more people who ask fewer questions. She looked at him. And I would rather ride south with a man I have already seen under pressure than walk into Benson alone. Cole thought about the man at the creek crossing, about the 3 brothers from the night before, about the lawyer in Benson who had a deed that could end 8 months of looking over his shoulder, about Nara standing at his door in the dark, with dried blood on her face and the patience of someone who had made a decision and intended to see it through. We ride in 1 hour, he said. Nara stood and began rolling the blanket from the cot into a tight travel pack, her hands quick and certain. Cole went to the livery and settled with Pete and brought the horses around and checked their shoes and packed at the saddlebags with what the trading post could offer for a 2-day ride. When he came back around the front of the trading post, Nara was standing in the street with her pack across her shoulder, looking south down the empty road that ran out of Silver Creek into the open country. Cole brought the horses up beside her. She mounted without a word, and they went out of Silver Creek at a steady pace. South, into the cold, open morning, the trail unfolding ahead of them through the scrub and the pale rock, and the long shadows of the early sun, the bounty man behind them, the men in Tucsonks ahead, the deed in Benson at the end of the road, and between all of it, the trail that Nara knew and Cole did not, winding through back country that the dangerous men of Arizona territory had never thought to watch. Cole Hardin rode and said nothing for a long time. The desert opened around them in that particular morning light that made everything look both very close and very far at the same time. He breathed in the cold air and listened to the horses, and listened to the quiet that Nara carried with her, which was a different kind of quiet from silence. It was the quiet of someone who had thought carefully about the road ahead and decided to ride it anyway. After a while, she turned in the saddle and looked at him and said, "Keep to the left when the trail forks. The right fork looks easier, it is not." Cole kept to the left. The Arizona territory spread out ahead of them, vast and dry and full of the kind of trouble that had its own kind of honesty. You knew where you stood. With country like this, it did not pretend. They rode south toward Benson and whatever was waiting there, and the morning light came up slow and gold behind the eastern ridge. And the trail was long, and they were neither of them done yet.